everybody. Today I am joined by John Costa of ABM Equipment. We're going to dive straight into John's story and tackle important questions regarding grain and malt handling. But first, John, how's it going today?
Oh, it's going well, man. How about yourself, Andrew?
It's a cold day here in Virginia, but I'm inside talking to you, so I really can't complain but so much.
You bet. It's good to
So
meet you.
tell me a little bit more about how you got into the world of grain.
You betcha. Probably about 30 years ago, I actually worked for a company called Bratney, and I did grain cleaning, export cleaning for ship loadout systems up and down the Columbia River. And at the other end of the brewery, working with the companies that are building the malts and all that kind of stuff. So got my grain handling at the commercial side.
So I'd love to even back up before that. How did you end up in that position?
Pardon me?
How did you even end up at that position in the first place?
Controls background. I was managing a scale company at the time, and the company that did a lot of grain handling that approached me. So I started working with those folks and just got built into it. Started at the farm, though. I mean, I was making sales calls to farmers all around the country on the grain handling and grain movement, augering, cleaning, all that kind of stuff.
And were you a beer person at that time?
Always have been. Yeah, 100%. When the craft brew industry kind of took off, I was in Seattle for that. So that was a fun experience, the first boom. And it's never looked back. Been a good time.
Do you have any short stories where you really, felt connected to the beer industry that made an impact on your career?
Oh, good question. Think about that. Yeah, I actually have quite a few. One in particular, I worked with some people and in the very beginning in Seattle, and I worked with George in the very beginning, and he was a great guy, and he taught me a lot of what I know about the brewery industry. Got me kind of excited. I'd always been in the grain handling side of it. He took me around Seattle, introduced me to the vibe, and met all those people, and he was a star athlete in the field, and it kind of ends on a depressing note. He had a bunch of kids, and he had to check out early. So as the brewery industry stepped up, and we stepped up to help his family. And so I was amazed at all the people he knew, and how they came to his help, his family.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And yeah, the beer industry is definitely a special industry. It's great to see how we come together for good, for the tough times, for just being there to help one another out.
Yep.
And you operate and act and interact with tons of different industries, but would you say that beer is your favorite?
100%. Anytime I get to do something in the brewery industry, and unfortunately, I don't. Just the other day it happened. I've got family that are in it, and my company, which I share a partnership with my partner Jeff. But getting to go on a sales call to a distillery the other day, the highlight. I mean, just fun. The people, light years different. They call it on an engineering group in a food plant, and just fun group, man. 100%.
Absolutely. So, tell us a little bit more about what ABM does.
So ABM's we've grown over time. It started out as a powder bulk solids company, and boy, there's a hoopah. Sorry about that.
All good.
Yeah. So we started out in the grain handling business, powder bulk solids, like I say, moving grain, that kind of thing. And then when the brewery industry came about, we have the brewery part of the business. And we're, just started out, my partner and I, selling the equipment. Both of us are technical in background, and we learned right away that we, want to service what we sell. So we started growing that part of the business. And that became, honestly, that was a lot of fun. So we added fabrication, added some engineering, so that we could build all the transitions between piece to piece, build the mezzanines on a brewery. And so now we have a division that's building bulk bag unloaders, grist cases, hoppers, and all that kind of stuff. Background, strong background in the scale industry myself, and had the opportunity to buy a scale company in Portland that I had worked at in previous time. So adding a full-blown scale company to our repertoire was nice. It helped us with the controls aspect, how it relates to the breweries, being able to do that kind of thing. So a scale company. And we have honestly, if you had to break one more division down, it'd be product inspection. We have an X-ray company. We do food inspection, looking for contaminants in food. How that would relate to the brewery industry is X-ray for bottles and cans, looking for glass contaminants and that kind of thing. So it takes a big brewery to want to do that, but they're out there. So kind of the three divisions. So we fabricate, engineer, we have full service department, and staff. So all based around being able to service and support everything we do ourselves.
Love it. Well, let's dive deep into the grain questions. Let's start with this one. So, John, how do you prevent grain from bridging, and what are the different options when it does?
Yeah, you betcha. So I think the best way to prevent it is to design correctly up front. But whole grains, whole kernels are pretty free flowing. They're really not very difficult to keep from bridging normally. So if we're doing, just barley, oats, if you're distillery, corn, whatnot, prior to cracking or milling, they're pretty easy to handle as long as you respect the angle of repose, design to it, that kind of thing. If we come into a project, let's say where they've got square hoppers with flat valleys, or they've got hoppers they've built with very shallow 25-degree cones that don't want to clean out, flow right, then we add flow aids. We can do that with vibration, we can do that air, that type of thing. So once it's happened, it's a different ballgame. Preventing it is the best. So I like to do it in the design phase, honestly, prior to it happening. But we have a lot of different techniques. Like say if you come to a grist case, by that time, if it's in a distillery, that grind is pretty fine. Flow characteristics change a lot. Sometimes you just don't have the space to put in a steep conical bottom hopper. So we might put a live bin bottom on something like that so that we've got the hopper coming down. You put a vibrating live bin bottom right underneath that. That saves you from having to put 7 or 8 feet of sidewall. That'll prevent bridging very well.
John, when you engage with the brewery, do you see that they know a lot already about grain handling, or do you all take the role on as educator?
Yeah, they've gotten a lot better. People have learned a lot. When we started out, I had people building, grist cases and hoppers from plywood a lot, when we started out. And, so we saw all kinds of things. But I'd say anymore, they do pretty well. The traps are out there. Most of the time it's on the spent grain side that we have flow problems, or on the grist.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So, John, how do you prevent grain dust from your mill and system?
Hey, you bet. So on the mill side, having a quality mill that's got good gaskets, doors, is built to be dust tight is a good starting point. Breweries, you might know, a lot of times, depending on the individuals on the brewery and where the money's at, compromises get made along the way, and some inexpensive mills get put in. Some of these mills are designed for the chicken industry, for feed and that kind of thing. And they work fine. Some of them are dustier than others. But at the end of the day, having a good tight lid on the mill hopper, and a dust port. We use a lot of 2-inch dust ports. We'll put sock on it. So as you fill and you displace the air and the dust, that sock will catch it and leave it inside. And then with the ultimate goal, as you want to approach it, to be able to put dust control on that vent and draw a vacuum.
So let's talk a little bit more about the quality of mills, and what impact does the quality of the mill have on the maintenance, lifespan, and the repairs of it?
Yeah, you bet. All the way, if the mill's been designed for the industry, across the board, there's a lot of really good products out there these days for milling. And so the quality of that manufacturer helps. And they built the mill that's easy to maintain, because at the end of the day, good maintenance procedures, one of the most important things that you can do. Keeping it clean, keeping it lubricated, checking your belts. And so a good quality mill is built to do that easily, which helps. If you've got, some low quality mills that are cumbersome, it takes an hour to get to a spot, then, people neglect that. So that's my kind of my guide to that. Across the board, no matter what kind of mill you buy, you've got to maintain it, and having a regular program in place to do that is extremely important.
Do you all train the breweries on how to maintain their mills?
We do. And we have programs locally in our area for sure, where we go out and do, preventative maintenance for people. Some people just like to say, yeah, come on in every couple months and go through our stuff. A lot of brewmasters are hands-on. A lot of them are technical with equipment. Some aren't. So
thanks for sharing all that. So, John, what's the difference between the maintenance and repair of augers versus tubular drag?
Yeah, I got you. Well, augers have been around a long time. You have a metal helix going through typically a plastic tube, and so that they're high in general, have been regarded as a high maintenance item. It's spinning in there; they're spinning fast. And so they wear out, and you wear out an elbow, you got to go through, pull it apart, all that jazz. And the drives, they require oil. You got just normal maintenance, but the auger turning in a plastic casing is a high wear item. And so if as soon as you put one bend in that system, you're going to create a rub point. If you've gotten, design has allowed it, and you have one straight 45 degrees, it'll last a little longer and be a little less headache on the maintenance side. But some people are doing this with augers, coming up doing that with augers. All those create high maintenance points. When you get there, that's when the tubular really shines, because tubular drags are horizontal and vertical runs. They've got wheels in them. There's the friction's gone. That cable or chain going through the puck, or going through the casing, with a puck, there's very little friction. And the same, when I started out, in a lot of industries, you go to a tubular for degradation issues, gentle handling. So some brewers don't like augers just for that reason. They are so violent. They create fines. They don't want that in their mix. They want to control the crack. So on top of maintenance, you have a quality issue. So we're a fan of using tubulars for sure.
Any other benefits that brewers should be aware of when switching from a tubular from a tubular drag from an auger?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
No, you're okay. Are there any other benefits that brewers experience from switching from a tubular drag to an auger, from an auger?
Yes. Thank you. So, well, unfortunately, I kind of touched on that a little bit already, right? So the big one is one on a price. The augers are cheaper, easily half the price, depending on the run, could be even more than that. An auger will take up, they don't go vertical. So really 45-degree angle is about the most you want to push them. People have do 60, say they're fine, but we tend not to do that. They take up a lot of floor space. If you got an auger cutting across your floor, you're going, got stuff, you got walkways, people are ducking down all the time, and they just take that up. But tubular, you can come right out of a hopper, vertical, right over the top. It's clean, makes a nice installation. From that perspective alone on space, I'm a fan.
I feel like I need to go tubular right now.
Lay down. What's that?
I feel like I need to go tubular right now.
Exactly. I'm a fan. I really am. They used to be, 5x the price. They're not anymore.
Awesome. So we've got a couple questions from brewers, and this is one we saw come up a couple times.
Yeah.
When should you weigh with a scale package versus weighing from the grist case?
Yep. Yep. So the I like both. I'm a fan, honestly, personally, of using a small scale hopper above the mill and going that direction. Weighing at the grist case has advantages. I'll go with both. At the end of the day, if you've got a grist case hanging up above your mash tun, and you got lots of things going on, you want to pull it up there and weigh it up there. It's ready. When you go to discharge it, you can control that flow. And some breweries, some distilleries that we've worked with, they really like to control and meter that differently from time to time. They'll put a gate in there, so they want to see the discharge rate. And having that grist case as a scale, I can look at loss of weight, and I can meter the grain at a very specific rate, and we can adjust that. And so you can look at that and play around with your hydration and that kind of thing. So having that dual purposes, that scale package up there. From space perspective, if you don't have space above your mill for a small 100-pound hopper, then I would scale up the grist case. But a fill dump above the mill, I like them. They're very simple. You have a mill, you turn it on. Let's say you've got a certain crack that's being taken place, and so you have a certain throughput. The control system will call for 100 pounds of grain above that mill. We'll fill that hopper. We'll shut off the supply. We'll open the gate. Products will go down into the mill, and we're going to start milling. All right. As soon as that scale hopper sees no weight, that gate shuts. We pull another one, and we fill it up, and we open the gate, and we just keep that hopper full all the time. You don't need level indicators. If the brewer, for whatever reason, has to stop his mill, everything stops. Automatic control system stops. He goes, does something else. A problem upstream, downstream, comes back, starts milling again. And the control system just picks up where it left off. It slaves to the mill. So small scale package, that's a long answer, but small scale package will allow to walk away. If you make adjustments to your mill and you've changed the throughput, you don't have to use a VFD on the upstream equipment to keep, or a high level indicator and keep filling to that. It just follows it. Oh, if that makes sense. Oh, if I explain
it does make sense, and I'm often guilty of talking a lot with my hands, and you just did an amazing job of just walking me through all this. So for anyone who's listening on Spotify, I definitely recommend you just come and watch the video of John and I right now. It's the fantastic descriptions there, John.
Thanks, man.
Now let's get another question that someone's put in the chat. What are the efficiency gains you get when going from 2-roll to 4-roll?
Yeah, this, something that comes up a lot in distilleries wanting to gain those efficiencies. And if you're talking about the mash efficiency, correct? Mm-hmm. So the having that efficiency in place, you can get 3 to 6% better efficiency, more out of getting a better grind, and it's quite a bit.
Are you seeing breweries care more about efficiency these days than, say, in past years? Like for us in Craft Beer Professionals, we see lots of buzzwords pop up over time. We saw data pop up. We saw like taproom technology and technology really everywhere. We've seen sustainability. And I feel like efficiency is one of those words we keep seeing more and more. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, efficiency across the board is a word that's used everywhere. But if you're looking at sugar efficiencies and efficiency of getting, and again, are we talking about getting the maximum efficiency out of the grain, or are you talking about the overall? I think maximum efficiency out of the grain, you have to have the proper equipment to gain that efficiency. A lot of brewers can't obtain that efficiency with a standard mash tun screen, where they can get that efficiencies across the board on equipment, motor efficiencies, power efficiencies. We build to it all the time, 100%.
So that leads me up to a question that I was curious about. Are there any standard mile marks of production when people should buy different types of equipment? Like, for example, at what barrel should you usually get a chain disc or so on, like a bulk bag or silo, spent grains? What are your recommendations there for, when you should look at the different types of equipment?
You bet. Good question. You start out, a lot of breweries, it's changed a lot. A lot of people starting out 60, 100 barrel breweries. They used to start out at, 1, 3, and 5. And so, but on a silo, some of the design characteristics, we have people putting silos in right out of the gate now. If they can turn that silo, that 45,000 pounds, in 3 months, 90 days or so, they don't have to worry about any infestations and that kind of thing, or characteristics, things taking place in the silo without any thought. People go a lot longer, but I would recommend a silo. A couple reasons. They'll save the money. Usually their grain provider might even have a program for that buyback on the silo added to their grain costs. So right out of the gate, if you've got space for it on the property outside for it, a silo is a great way to go. The ergonomics of throwing all those 50s, carrying that around, that insurance companies, are kind to us all, right? So, you want to try to minimize that. I mean, I've got brewers, they call it their weight program, their weight training program, but it can be rough after a while. Bulk bag unloaders are compromised on the bulk side. A lot of times you'll have silos, bulk bag, unloaders, depending on, what's going on in that brewery. Their base malt is going to be outside. Typical brewers try to do some specialty blends and seasonals and that kind of thing. A BBU is a nice solution for that. They don't really have silos, full. They can buy 2 or 3, super sacks, manage it at that level. Now, as far as the rest of it, the milling, the grist case and hoppers and that kind of thing, just follows whatever's happening with their business model.
No, thanks for walking us through that. So, John, what are the options for automating your grain handling?
Yeah, that's come a long way these days. One of the things we've done, I mentioned earlier on with scale companies, we were able to do most of the turn a gate on and off, that type of thing, fill a scale hopper with a scale indicator, and we still do a lot of that. Put a control panel in, and you can run the grain side with the scale indicator. Can interface if they've got a master system, on the brewery calling for grains. We've also got, on the automation side, we've added a small PLC that runs the scale, and we've got a tablet, and so now the brewer can, if he wants to be on Wi-Fi, it's an app, so he can do it on his phone, he can do it on his laptop, tablet, walk around, he can put in a blend, and just say, hey, I want X amount I'm doing blend A. Here's the recipe. He just hits blend A, and whatever if it's 1 silo, 3 silos, if he's pulling from silos and bulk bag unloaders, specialty hopper, where his hand ads are in there, it'll remember all that, and it'll just start the process, start pulling. We'll start with a base malt usually. We'll go to the specialties. We'll layer that in, mill it through, and then we'll flush back out with the base malt. It's all automatic. Hit stop, you pause, you just go on your day. You put a timer on it, say, when I show up in the morning, I want 2,000 pounds hanging above my mash tun, and it's there.
Sounds like it's going to make everybody's life a little bit easier.
We're trying. Yeah, the automation part's a lot of fun. We really enjoy that. We have a lot of guys that work hard on that one.
When did the automation part become a big part of what you do at the business?
Well, for me, it's how I started. It's doing automation with years ago, but now DSO, which is Data Bridge DSO. It's the name of our package that we use. And it's a big part of our business across all of our lines. So we use it on our X-ray division. We use it in scales. We're automating all kinds of things that happen on packaging lines where people use scales, loadout systems. So it's automation's been something that's been in my blood for a lifetime.
Very cool. So we just had another question come through, and it says, John, how can I plan for a new build or adapt an existing brewery to meet rising demand for NFPA compliance? And could you start by explaining to everyone a little bit more about NFPA compliance?
You bet. The best way is just blow up your building and walk away from it. No, I'm just kidding.
Don't follow John's advice, everyone.
Don't follow my advice. It's bad advice. So NFPA, they're workable. We're a full-scale dust collection company, so we do, like I say, we'll be doing grain elevators and that kind of thing. We understand it really well. The insurance companies and WFPA. It's not hard. There's very simple ways to come in and inexpensive ways to provide compact, small dust collection to a normal brewery. And these units can be mounted inside or out. A lot of people, if you can, I like them outside, but they're small. They've got a little bucket underneath them, a rotary valve, and typically there's 5 or 6 pickup points that we're going to pull air from. And you clamp together ducting that's simple to work with. Add that unit. We could come in anywhere in the country, do a survey on that, walk you through it, and get you compliant pretty easily. We'll put a plan together that the brewmaster can reach out to his architect and or local authorities and submit that paperwork. So if they're having problems with that, it's not that difficult. Yeah.
So this has been a fun conversation. Everybody's throwing so many questions your way. So I'm going to relay the next to you, John. And this one is, how do I know when to choose a bolt together silo versus smooth wall welded bin?
Gotcha. Bolt together silos. They look appealing. First of all, they have a look. A corrugated silo at the right brewery looks awesome. I like them. I like the look. Bars are made out of it, that material. Problem, those bins are designed for the farm, and they were designed to gravity fed. So, they would, harvest their wheat and they would auger it into the top. A little hatch comes up, goes in, fills up. There's short-term storage, and that's their design. They have gaskets, they're sealed. So, upfront cost on a bolted silo, if somebody's trying to save money, can look appealing. Things that'll add, and we've run the numbers a lot. What'll happen on a cost perspective is there a lot more money to build. It's a lot of bolts. You need a crane, you need a shop, or you do it outside. It takes a lot of time and effort. When you look at that versus the price of a welded silo, we honestly haven't done a bolted bin in quite some time. The other thing that happens is they leak. And when you have a silo with all those seams and you convert it to a brewery or distillery silo, you're actually cut in there, you put some vent lines, you put a fill line. And every time they come to fill that thing, they put 4 to 5 PSI of pressure in that silo as they fill it. It expands a little bit like that. So you have a sealed up unit that's, you spent all your time on, you did it right. And then every time you fill it, like that. And every time it does that, it breaks those seals. And so for that reason, because, we changed out, quite a few of those that we put in, I'd have to really be talked into using a bolted silo right now. They leak. If you're in a wet climate, I'll come to a brewer and the guy's going, man, look at this. I got all these chunks of green grain. They get moisture in them. They leak really bad. And so not a big fan at this point, honestly.
At what point in time did you start to go away from the bolt together silos?
as the efficiencies of building a welded bin came down and the price came down. And so now, the cost has come down enough that delta isn't worth the trade-off. It's not worth the leaks. It's not worth the hassle. It's not worth the dust. You can put a welded bin inside of a brewery with the right ventilation. And we do it all the time. They don't have any outside property, so the silos go inside, and we can fill in there, and it's a clean space. You do that with a bolted bin, you're gonna be wearing goggles and a dust mask.
Awesome, thanks for that, John. So let's talk a little bit more about silos. What are the advantages and disadvantages of using a spent grain silo?
Yeah, you bet. Really, the only disadvantage is cost, upfront cost. But storing spent grain, depending on how much is going on in the area of the country they're in, some people have a great avenue for getting rid of spent grain. They'll have somebody that comes by every day and pick it up for them. A local farmer, whatever. And in some areas, it's very competitive. You get into the city of, Portland, Seattle, there's a lot of breweries, and the space is tight. And so you've got, all these open containers of spent grain. I was in Seattle not too long ago, really cool ass brewery, having lunch outside, having a beer, and all I could smell was rotten grain. And I was like, I know the guy. It's like, he's going, yeah, you got to help me with that. I'm like, yeah, that's nasty, So the advantages are, cleanliness, vermin, rats, maintaining all those tubs. It's endless. And, being able to have a truck pull up, open a gate, return on an auger, be done with it, rinses out automatically. It's just the price. And a lot of guys starting out, that's something they'll sacrifice. They want to get to it. But it's one of the first things they do when they can.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So I've really enjoyed picking your brain today on this. I mean, you've got how many years doing this at this point in time?
Yeah, it's at least 25.
That is amazing. Yeah. I can only imagine the neat things you've learned and seen across your career. So in addition to that insight, I'd love to learn a little bit more about the products you're most proud that ABM's offering and, how you're unique.
Okay. I appreciate that. So what makes us unique is that we've looked at all aspects of putting in a brewery. So from initial concept, working with an architect, we have engineering group, and we build it all into the price, so that you go to a standard architect firm or consultant or engineering group, they can only do one piece of that puzzle. Where ABM, we come to us, you got to have your architect, you got to have somebody taking care of all that, building your space. And if you have a consultant that's doing certain aspects of it, we work with a consultant. But we have the engineering group to do that, and the skills behind it. Once it's done, we've got the full fab shop. So if things that'll throw off somebody just supplying equipment, it's customization, and so there's, even if we customize and have tailored everything for the brewery industry, and an example of that, I don't know how much time you got, but even using an inexpensive auger. They're all built for the chicken feed industry. They got plastic ends on them. They don't have a good in-feed. But you have a basic tube and auger. We'll take that auger, we'll customize the discharge, put a new one on there, tri-clover fitting. The clock's anywhere you want it. The in-feed is dust tight and sealed. Simple auger, right? But making the BBUs, whether you need a hoist and trolley or a forklift style, you've got a low headroom. We're able to design a bulk bag unloader that fits in your space. The scale package, the controls, we do it. We have all that. We're a scale company and we have a controls division. So and then support and installation. So when we talk to people, it makes it hard for us to compete sometimes, honestly, but not much. There's guys that'll just drop ship and say, yeah, we can sell you an auger, a mill, and a hopper. They're sitting, in their pajamas at home, and they'll quote it out, and it'll all get drop shipped in, and it's a mess. It's oily, it's greasy. The parts don't fit well. All that's done in our shop. So we ship out a unit. It's ready to go. It's designed to be, no matter how well you engineer, we'll get out there, and you had to move a mash tun over 5 feet. It went right through a tubular or an auger. Guess what? Our equipment's built to work around that. So we're an A to Z group when it comes to breweries. Breweries is a niche that utilizes all of our skills. Call it by accident, call it by desire, whatever. But we're a good fit for it, man.
It's a great industry to work in. So, John, with all your expertise, I'm sure you never stop learning. Is there anything that's in your space that's really exciting you right now? Any new developments, any new trends, anything you're just pumped on?
Yeah, that's cool. 100% on the learning. I like to get up every day and challenge myself, and people that do well in our company are that way. I absolutely love coming out of a meeting in my company and having the group and individuals come up with things to challenge me and do things that are more exciting than I ever could have done by myself. But that said, in the industry, these things that are driving, grain drying, trying to minimize that grain and prepare your spent grain, other than the fashion now of the soup. And so we are looking at doing some of that, and saying, okay, we can condition that spent grain, give you more options, maybe even sell it. And so that's been exciting. Beyond that, we're constant modifications all the time. And probably a mill on the horizon. So, yeah.
That's exciting. Is there anything else you'd like to share with everyone about yourself or ABM?
Oh man, thanks for, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and, reach out, hit our website. You'll get a fast response from us. And we love the brewery industry and the distilling industry, man. It's fun and it's in our blood.
Awesome. Well, that's abmequipment.com. John, it's been awesome hanging out with you today. I hope to bump into you before too long to share a pint and maybe not smell that bad grain smell that you described earlier, but that pleasant, aroma of a nice brew day.
Awesome, man. Andrew, thank you very much. Yeah, cheers.
Appreciate you.